The apartment was silent except for the low hum of the city outside. Neon lights leaked through the broken blinds and painted the cracked walls in strange colors. Red, blue, green, like the room itself was breathing. Inside, he sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the small wooden table where unpaid bills lay in a messy stack. The word overdue was printed on every page. Rent was the biggest one, written in angry red letters. His name was Daniel, and Daniel could not pay. The room smelled of dust and old fabric. A single chair leaned against the wall, one leg cracked and ready to break. Clothes were thrown everywhere, shirts, pants, socks, all mixed in piles that made the floor look like a battlefield. The fridge was almost empty, holding only a half-filled bottle of water and a box of stale bread. Daniel rubbed his face with his hands. His eyes were tired. His hair was messy. He had been searching for work all week, but no one wanted to hire him. In the shining towers outside, machines and smart systems had taken almost every job. Humans were slow, weak, and too expensive. At least that's what the companies said. He looked at the clock. Rent was due in 2 days. If he failed again, the landlord would throw him out. He had heard the landlord's heavy boots in the hallway earlier that morning, stomping like a warning. Daniel could almost hear the man's angry voice in his head. Pay or leave. No excuses. The thought made his stomach twist. Where would he go? The city was cold. The streets were worse. He stood up and paced the room. His hands shook with anger. He wanted to scream, but there was no one to hear it. His phone was silent. No messages. No friends left. His parents had passed away years ago, and whatever connections he once had were gone with them. He was truly alone. Daniel stopped by the window and pulled the blinds open. The city outside was alive, but it felt like another world. Towers climbed into the sky, their windows glowing like stars. Flying cars hummed past in perfect order, each guided by invisible lines of artificial intelligence. Down below, neon signs flashed promises. Perfect life, perfect Job, perfect you. He hated those words. He whispered to himself, perfect for who? Not for me. His reflection in the glass looked pale and thin. A man broken before his time. A man the world had left behind. He sat back on the bed and buried his face in his hands again. His chest felt heavy, like something was pressing down on him. Fear and shame mixed together. For a moment, he wished he could just disappear, but the thought scared him even more. He was still alive. He still wanted to live, even if he had no idea how. The silence in the room grew louder. He could hear every tick of the old clock on the wall, every hum of the power lines outside. It was the kind of silence that made the air feel thick, like the world was waiting for something to happen. His eyes drifted back to the table. The bills stared at him like enemies. His mind kept repeating the same problem. No money, no rent, no hope. Over and over, like a broken machine, he clenched his fists. Why me? He whispered. Why always me? Daniel lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The paint was peeling, and shadows crawled across the cracks as the neon light shifted outside. He imagined the landlord banging on the door. He imagined himself on the street with nothing but his clothes. The thought made his heart race, then came another sound. Knock, soft, gentle. Almost too quiet, Daniel froze. His body stiffened. He was not expecting anyone. No one ever visited him. Knock again, a little louder this time. He slowly stood up, his bare feet brushing against the cold floor. His heart thumped hard in his chest. Who could it be, landlord? No, the landlord never knocked this softly. A neighbor? He had no neighbors who cared. A thief? But why would a thief knock first? He reached the door and pressed his ear against it. Silence. Whoever stood outside was waiting, patient. His hand hovered over the lock. His mind screamed two things at once. Don't open it. Open it, another knock. This one carried something different. Not anger. Not threat, almost calm. Daniel swallowed hard and turned the lock. The door creaked as it opened, and there she was. A woman stood in the hallway holding a basket of laundry. Her face was calm, almost glowing under the dim light. She smiled at him like she had been waiting for this moment. Daniel blinked. His mouth opened, but no words came out. She tilted her head slightly, her smile never fading. Then, in a voice soft as silk, she said, I'll do what a man loves most, and I'll fold your laundry. Daniel stared, confused and frozen in place. His tired mind tried to understand, but nothing made sense. Why was she here? Who was she? And why did her words feel heavier than they should, like a secret hiding behind a simple smile? The silence returned, only this time it wasn't empty. It was the silence before something begins. Daniel's hand was still on the door, his fingers gripping the cold metal handle. He didn't know whether to close it again or step back. The woman stood calmly, holding the basket of laundry as if she belonged there, as if this moment had been planned long before. Her smile was gentle but not ordinary. It had a weight, a quiet power. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright, like they carried a light of their own. She was not dressed like the people outside in their glossy jackets and neon glasses. Her clothes were plain, simple, almost old-fashioned, yet somehow cleaner, sharper, and more perfect than anything Daniel had ever seen. Daniel opened his mouth, searching for words. Who are you?" His voice cracked. She tilted her head slightly, still smiling. "Someone who folds laundry." Her answer was strange. It made no sense. Daniel stepped back slowly, his mind racing. Was she joking? Was this some cruel trick? The basket she carried looked real enough. Shirts, pants, socks neatly placed inside. But something about them shimmered faintly, as if the fabric was alive. Daniel cleared his throat. "Look, I don't have money. If you're selling something, you're wasting your time." The woman walked past him without asking, her steps soft but certain. She entered the small apartment and looked around, her eyes moving across the messy piles of clothes. Daniel froze at the door, unsure whether to stop her or not. She set the basket down on the chair with the broken leg, which surprisingly did not collapse under the weight. Then she looked at him again. "You are tired. Your home is tired. Let me bring order." Daniel's heart raced. His instincts told him something wasn't right, but his body didn't move. He watched as she picked up a wrinkled shirt from the floor, shook it gently, and folded it in a single, perfect motion. The fabric seemed to relax in her hands, smoothing out without iron or machine. She placed it neatly on the table beside the unpaid bills. Daniel blinked. He whispered, "How did you do that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up another piece of clothing. Again, the same impossible movement, folded, flawless, as if brand new. The room grew quieter. The neon lights from outside flickered through the blinds, but inside, something else was happening. With each fold, the air seemed lighter. The piles of chaos shrank. The apartment, once drowning in disorder, began to look almost peaceful. Daniel shook his head. "This is crazy. Who sent you? Why are you here?" The woman finally paused. She looked at him, her eyes locking onto his. "No one sent me. I came because you are ready." Her words were simple yet heavy. "Ready for what?" Daniel's chest tightened. He laughed nervously. "Ready? Lady, I can't even pay my rent." "I'm not ready for anything." She stepped closer, folding another shirt as she spoke. "That is why you are ready? You know what it means to lose. You know the weight of struggle. Others, they don't." Her voice was calm, but Daniel felt it cut deep. He wanted to argue, but something in her tone silenced him. He tried to study her face, hoping to find answers. But the more he looked, the more he realized. She didn't look tired, she didn't look stressed, she didn't even look fully human. There was no sweat, no small imperfections, no sign of exhaustion. She was too precise, too flawless, Daniel whispered almost to himself. "What are you?" For the first time, her smile faded. She looked down at the folded clothes, her hands resting on them as though the fabric itself carried secrets. Then she said softly, "Not from here." The words hung in the air. Daniel's mouth went dry. Not from here. The meaning was clear, and yet his mind refused to accept it. He wanted to laugh it off, but the silence in the room told him it was no joke. He stepped back, his heart pounding. "You're telling me you're, what, alien? Robot? Some kind of experiment?" She looked up again, the faintest trace of amusement returning to her lips. "I am what your kind would call visitor. Names do not matter. What matters is you." Daniel froze. "Me? Why me?" She lifted the last wrinkled shirt, folded it with perfect grace, and placed it on the pile. Then she turned to him fully. "Because humans are unlike any I have known. You fight even when you cannot win. You care for things that seem small, clothes, bread, home, when others would not. That is why I'm here." Daniel shook his head. His mind felt like it was breaking apart. Rent, bills, hunger, all of it was already too much. Now this stranger, this thing, was telling him he mattered in some way he couldn't understand. He wanted to scream at her to leave, but his voice caught in his throat. because deep inside, beneath all the fear, he felt something else, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The woman picked up the folded pile and placed it neatly back in the basket. Then she looked at him again, her eyes brighter than ever. I will ask you soon, but not now. First, I fold. Daniel swallowed hard, every nerve in his body on edge. He didn't know if he should throw her out or beg her to stay. All he knew was that nothing in his life would be the same after this night. Outside, the city hummed like always. But inside that small, broken apartment, something new had begun, and Daniel realized his struggle might not be just about rent anymore. It might be about everything. The apartment felt different now. Not cleaner, though the laundry piles had vanished into neat stacks, but heavier, as if the air itself was watching. Daniel sat at the edge of his bed, his knees bent, his hands shaking slightly. His eyes kept darting to the woman. She stood near the small table, folding one last piece of clothing that hadn't been touched in months, a faded shirt, ripped at the collar, stained with old oil. He had left it at the bottom of a pile because it reminded him of factory work, long shifts, and the day he lost his job. The woman unfolded it with a strange respect, smoothing the fabric with her fingertips. Her touch was gentle, but the shirt responded like it was alive. The stains faded. The tears pulled themselves together, leaving no trace of damage. When she folded it neatly, the shirt looked brand new. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. That's not possible, she didn't answer. She simply set the shirt down as if nothing strange had happened. Daniel stood pacing back and forth. No, I saw that. That shirt was ruined. It was garbage. And now? He pointed at it, his voice sharp. Now it looks like I just bought it yesterday. The woman tilted her head. Does it matter? It is whole again. Daniel laughed nervously, rubbing his face. Of course it matters. That's not normal. People can't do that. Not with their hands. She looked at him, her eyes calm and steady. You see it. You believe your eyes, yet your mind refuses to accept. Her words stung because they were true. Daniel wanted to deny it, to tell himself he was hallucinating. But the evidence sat right there on the table. A ruined shirt restored to perfection. He dropped into the chair, leaning forward, gripping his hair. His voice was low, almost a whisper. What are you? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward the basket, lifted a folded pair of pants, and began unfolding it. As she worked, she spoke softly. In your language, you would say I am... Not from here. My home is far. But distance is not the reason I am different. It is time. We are older than your kind, much older. Daniel stared at her hands as they moved. The fabric shifted like it wanted to obey her, as though gravity and wear had no power in her presence. You're saying you're an alien? His voice cracked. She looked up. If that word makes it easier, yes. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He laughed once bitterly. An alien folding my dirty laundry. That's insane. Her smile returned, faint but real. Insane or human? You call it small, unimportant. But that is why it matters, Daniel blinked. What do you mean? She placed the pants down, perfectly folded, and stepped closer to him. Her eyes caught the neon glow seeping through the blinds, and for a moment they seemed to reflect more than the city lights. They reflected patterns, spirals, symbols, stars he didn't recognize. Other beings do not understand this, she said. They see only great things, power, war, control. But your kind... You find meaning in the smallest actions. A meal, a hug, folding clothes. It is why you survive when you should not. Daniel's lips parted, but no words came. He felt something stir deep inside. A spark of pride mixed with confusion. He shook his head. No, I'm just a man who can't pay his rent. I'm nobody. Her gaze softened. You are human. That is not nobody. The silence stretched, heavy and strange. Daniel's mind raced with 1,000 questions, but fear kept him quiet. He wanted to know more, but he wasn't sure he could handle the answers. Then something caught his eye. The folded clothes on the table, shirts, pants, socks, were not just folded. From where he sat, they formed shapes, not random piles, but lines and curves, a pattern. Daniel stood and walked slowly toward the table, his breath shallow. He leaned closer, studying the arrangement. The stacks of clothes outlined something like a star map or maybe a diagram. Circles and paths woven together in strange symmetry. He turned sharply toward her. What is this? She stepped forward, her expression unreadable. It is a reminder. Daniel's voice trembled. Of what? Her smile faded, and for the first time he saw something else in her eyes. Not calm, not amusement. Something heavier, sadness, that you are not alone. The words hit him like a wave. His knees weakened and he gripped the edge of the table. Not alone. He had been drowning in loneliness for months, maybe years. And now, this stranger, this visitor, was telling him he wasn't. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to speak. Why me? Why come here? Out of all the people in this city, why choose me? She lowered her eyes, folding the last piece of fabric in the basket. Her hands moved slower now, as if the weight of the answer pressed against her. Finally she said, because you struggle. And struggle is the seed of greatness. Daniel felt a chill run through him. Her words echoed in his head, louder than the hum of the city, louder than the clock on the wall, the shirt, the patterns, the impossible folding. All of it pointed to something larger, something he wasn't ready to face. And yet he knew one thing for certain. This night was no longer about rent or bills or a broken chair. It was about secrets. Secrets hidden in laundry, secrets hidden in him. Daniel's breathing was uneven. His eyes kept drifting back to the strange map the folded clothes had formed on the table. Lines, curves, and circles, all too neat to be an accident. He wanted to believe it was coincidence, but deep down he knew better. The woman stood nearby, her hands folded in front of her now, calm and still. She looked like she was waiting, for him to speak or for him to accept something unspoken. Finally, Daniel found his voice. What do you want from me? Her reply came without hesitation. I want you to come with me. The words dropped into the air like stones into water. Ripples of shock spread through Daniel's chest. He took a step back. Go with you, where? Her eyes glimmered in the neon light. Beyond this place. Beyond this city. Beyond Earth. Daniel laughed, but the sound was thin and shaky. You're out of your mind. I can't even pay rent. I can't leave. I don't even have bus fare, let alone... His voice trailed off. The woman tilted her head slightly, her expression unchanged. You are trapped here, alone, forgotten, yet you still fight to stay alive. That is why you are important. Daniel rubbed his face with his hands. He wanted to dismiss her, throw her out, pretend this whole night was just stress and hunger twisting his brain. But every time his eyes drifted back to that map of clothes, his excuses collapsed. Important? He muttered. I'm not important. I'm just a guy with nothing left. Her voice softened. That is why you are chosen. The ones with nothing left are the ones who can carry everything. Her words unsettled him. He felt them press against the walls he had built inside himself, the walls of shame, failure, and hopelessness. He forced a laugh. So what, you're going to take me into space? Make me some kind of hero? She didn't laugh. She only looked at him with that steady gaze. Not hero, human. That is enough. Her seriousness chilled him more than any joke could have. Daniel turned away, pacing the small room. His mind spun with thoughts. Leaving Earth? Impossible. Being chosen? Absurd. And yet, was this life worth clinging to? Rent overdue, empty fridge, no future. What did he really have left to lose? He looked back at her. Why me? Out of billions of people, why choose me? There are scientists, soldiers, leaders, people stronger, smarter, better than me. Her eyes didn't blink. Because they have already forgotten. They chase power, glory, survival at any cost. But you... She gestured toward the folded clothes. You kept even these. Broken, stained, useless. You could not throw them away. That is humanity. You give meaning where there is none. Daniel stared at the shirt she had repaired, the one he had hidden at the bottom of the pile because it reminded him of failure. He had kept it, yes, but not out of love. Out of stubbornness. Out of a refusal to let go. Was that really what made him different? He swallowed hard. And if I say no? Her smile faded, and for the first time her calm face showed a shadow of concern. She lowered her voice. Then you will remain. You will pay your rent or you will not. You will walk the streets cold and hungry. You will survive as long as you can, and one day you will die here. Forgotten. The words cut like knives because they were true. Daniel's chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. He felt cornered, trapped between two impossible choices. Stay in a life already crumbling, or step into a future he couldn't even imagine. Silence stretched in the room. The ticking clock grew louder every second like a hammer on his skull. Finally, he asked almost in a whisper, "What happens if I say yes?" Her eyes brightened again, reflecting strange lights that didn't belong to the city. "Then you will see what others cannot. You will leave this broken world behind. You will walk among stars, and you will learn why humans matter more than they know." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to ask more questions, but the words caught. All he managed was, "And what do I have to do?" She stepped closer, her voice calm and sharp at once. "Trust me." Those two words scared him more than all the rest. Trust. The one thing he hadn't done in years. The one thing life had beaten out of him. Daniel backed away, shaking his head. "No, I can't. I don't even trust myself." She stopped in front of him, only a step away. Her gaze was steady, unblinking. "Then start small. Trust this." She reached into the basket and lifted the restored shirt. She held it out to him, folded perfectly, the fabric glowing faintly in the dim light. Daniel hesitated. His hand trembled as he reached for it. The fabric was warm in his palm, softer than he remembered, alive with something he couldn't name. The woman's voice was quiet, but firm. "Your choice is coming, Daniel. I will not force it. But when the moment arrives, you must decide. Stay in this prison or step into the unknown. Both paths belong to you." Daniel stared at the shirt in his hands. His heart pounded. The apartment around him felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls were pressing closer. He realized something terrifying. His life might already be over if he stayed. Maybe stepping into the unknown wasn't the risk, it was the only chance left. But he couldn't say it yet. Not now. So he clutched the folded shirt and said nothing, and the silence between them grew heavier than ever. The apartment was too quiet. The woman's words still echoed in Daniel's mind, but now there was something else, something underneath the silence. A faint vibration deep in the walls, almost like the city was holding its breath. Daniel sat with the folded shirt in his lap, staring at it but not seeing it. His heart was pounding. His thoughts circled endlessly. Stay, leave, trust, don't trust. Every option felt impossible. Then the sound came. At first, it was distant, a low wail rising and falling, carried in through the broken blinds. Sirens. But not the ordinary kind that warned of fires or storms. These were sharper, urgent, cutting through the city like blades. Daniel's head snapped up. What's that? The woman's face didn't change. She simply listened, her eyes half closed as if she already knew. The sirens grew louder. From the street below came a rushing noise. Vehicles moving fast, their engines screaming, lights flashing red against the window. Shadows swept across the room as something larger passed overhead. Daniel stood, panic gripping his chest. Police? Soldiers? What's happening out there? The woman opened her eyes and spoke calmly. They are searching. Daniel froze. Searching for what? Her gaze met his. For me. The words landed like a punch to the gut. Daniel stumbled back, shaking his head. Wait, what? You mean they know you're here? Why, who are they? She didn't move, didn't blink. Those who fear what I bring. They know I have come to offer. And they would stop it. Daniel's throat went dry. His hands shook as he pointed toward the window. You brought them here? To me, to my home? Her voice stayed soft. They were already near. They watch all. But you are the one who opened the door. The words cut him in two. He wanted to slam the window shut, block out the sirens, pretend none of this was happening. But the reality pressed closer with every flashing light. Down below, footsteps echoed. Dozens of boots slamming the pavement in unison. Shadows moved quickly between the neon signs, armored figures sweeping the streets. Daniel's heart raced. Oh God, they're coming here, aren't they? The woman finally moved, walking to the center of the room. She placed her hands together in front of her as if steadying herself. If they find us, they will not ask questions. They will take me. And you? Daniel's stomach dropped. Me? Why me? Because you saw, she said simply. Because you know. Daniel wanted to scream. He wanted to run. But there was nowhere to go. Only a narrow hallway, a locked door, and the city crawling with men who carried guns and machines. Outside, the sirens grew even sharper. A voice boomed through a speaker, mechanical and cold. Block secured. Units move in. No one leaves. Daniel's knees felt weak. He grabbed the edge of the table for balance. His eyes darted to the woman. You have to leave. You have to get out before they find you. But she shook her head. If I go now, you will never see the truth. They will erase this moment from you. You will forget. Daniel's chest tightened. Forget? Could they really do that? The sound of boots on stairs thundered closer. The whole building shook with the force of men climbing, weapons clattering against armor. Panic swallowed him. He rushed to the woman, grabbing her arm. You don't understand. I can't do this. I can't fight soldiers. I can't even fight my landlord. For the first time, her calm expression cracked. Not fear, but urgency. She gripped his wrist, her touch strangely warm. You do not need to fight. You only need to choose. The boots grew louder. The stairwell echoed with voices, sharp commands, mechanical clicks. They were almost at his floor. Daniel's heart hammered. Sweat dripped down his back. He wanted to run, but his feet wouldn't move. He wanted to scream, but his throat was locked. The woman leaned closer, her eyes burning with quiet fire. Daniel, listen to me. If you step out with me, they cannot stop us. If you stay, they will own you. There is no middle. The pounding footsteps stopped just outside the hall. A heavy voice shouted, check every door. Daniel's chest tightened until he thought his ribs would snap. His eyes darted to the door. Thin wood, cheap lock, no defense at all. The woman's grip on his wrist tightened. It is time, his mind screamed. Stay and be taken. Leave and lose everything he knew. Both choices terrified him. The first bang shook the door. The sound was like thunder in the tiny room. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Open up, a voice barked. Daniel's breath came in sharp gasps. His knees buckled. He clutched the folded shirt tighter in his free hand, his knuckles white. Another bang. The lock rattled. The woman's voice was a whisper now, but strong. Trust me. Daniel's head spun. Sirens outside. Soldiers at the door. An alien beside him offering escape. His entire life had shrunk to this single moment. The door shuddered again. One more hit and it would burst open. Daniel's eyes met hers, and for the first time he realized whatever choice he made, nothing would ever be the same. The door shook again under the heavy fists of the soldiers. Dust drifted from the frame. Daniel's heart thumped so hard it hurt. Open it, the voice outside barked. Final warning. Daniel's body trembled. He clutched the folded shirt in one hand, the woman's wrist still gripping his in the other. The world was collapsing into noise and fear, and then everything stopped. Not the soldiers. Not the banging, but him. The panic froze in his chest. The air thickened. It was like the seconds themselves had slowed. The woman's eyes locked on his, glowing faintly now, brighter than any neon outside. She spoke in a voice that was both whisper and thunder. It is time you see. The piles of folded clothes on the table began to glow. Lines of light spread across them, weaving together like threads. The shapes that Daniel had noticed before, the circles, the paths, shifted into something sharper, clearer. A star map. The laundry stacks weren't random. They had been arranged with purpose, each fold a line of meaning. Daniel staggered back, his eyes wide. What is that? The woman lifted her hand toward the glowing map. The air around it shimmered, vibrating with quiet hums. This is the path. The route beyond your world. A doorway hidden in plain sight. Daniel shook his head. From laundry? From clothes? Her lips curved faintly. From anything. That is the truth of your kind. You take the useless, the forgotten, the ordinary, and you shape it into meaning. You do not even know you are doing it. And that is why others fear you. Another slam rattled the door. The soldiers shouted, "Break it down!" Daniel's breath came in sharp bursts. He wanted to argue, to tell her this was nonsense, but he couldn't. The glowing map burned in front of his eyes. It was real. Too real. Why me? He whispered. The woman's voice softened, though her eyes blazed with intensity. Because you carry the struggle. You hold on even when all is lost. That shirt in your hands, ruined, useless, you kept it. That is what humanity is. Not power, not weapons, but the refusal to let go. Daniel looked down at the shirt, its fabric alive with faint warmth. His chest tightened. For years he had hated it, hated what it reminded him of, but he hadn't thrown it away. Some part of him had clung to it even when everything else was stripped from him. Struggle, he muttered. That's all I've ever had. The woman stepped closer. And that is why you are feared. Struggle makes you dangerous. It makes you rise when others fall. The banging on the door grew louder. Cracks split the frame. A voice shouted, "Now!" Daniel spun toward her, panic rising again. "They're coming!" "We don't have time." Her hand shot out, pressing against his chest. The glow from her touch spread through him, warm, steady, anchoring. His panic slowed, though the world outside still screamed. Her voice was steady. Daniel, listen. If you stay, they will erase this. They will break you until you forget. But if you come with me, you will see what they hide. You will see why your kind matters more than all the stars. Daniel swallowed hard. His throat was dry. What do they hide? The woman turned to the glowing map. The folded clothes shifted again, forming not just paths but images. Worlds, faint outlines of planets, and among them, Earth, small and fragile. Around it, symbols like chains, circles binding tight. She lifted her hand over the image. They hide your strength. They tell you that you are small, weak, replaceable, but they know the truth. Humanity is the one thing they cannot control. You are the species that makes meaning where there is none. That is your weapon. That is why they fear you. Daniel's body shook. The chains around Earth pulsed with dark light. He reached out without thinking, his fingers brushing the glowing pattern. A shock ran up his arm, painful but alive. The woman's voice sharpened. You are not powerless. You are human, and that is enough to break them. The final crash came. The door split. Boots stomped into the hall. The glow from the table flickered, fighting against the shadows pressing in. Daniel staggered back, his voice breaking. I'm not. The woman grabbed his shoulders, her eyes blazing like suns. You are. Because you struggle. Because you refuse to fall. That is humanity. That is you! The door burst open. Soldiers filled the hall, armored, faceless, weapons raised. Red lights swept across the room. Daniel froze, his heart in his throat. The woman stepped between him and the soldiers. Her voice was calm, but it carried like thunder. He is not yours, the soldiers shouted. Metal clicked. The air filled with the crackle of energy weapons charging. Daniel's chest heaved. He stared at the glowing map, at the chains around Earth, at the shirt burning in his hands like a symbol of everything he had lost and everything he had not given up. And in that moment, for the first time, he understood. The struggle was not weakness. The struggle was the reason he was still alive. The reason humanity was still alive. The woman looked back at him, her voice soft, almost tender. Choose. The soldiers stepped forward, weapons raised. Daniel tightened his grip on the shirt. His eyes locked on the glowing map, and he knew, whatever happened next, the truth had already been revealed. The door lay shattered. Splinters of wood crunched under heavy boots as soldiers poured into the room. Their armor gleamed in the flickering neon light. Their weapons pointed like the claws of machines. Red visors glowed where faces should have been. Daniel stood frozen, the restored shirt clutched tight in his hand, the glowing map burning on the table beside him. His chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven breaths. The woman stepped in front of him, calm even as rifles hummed with lethal power. She raised her voice, not loud but steady, carrying through the chaos. He has chosen. Daniel's stomach twisted. His voice broke. I haven't. Her hand lifted, silencing him. Her eyes locked onto his, glowing with a strange light. Not in words. In heart. The soldiers advanced, moving like shadows. One of them barked an order. Step aside. The target is classified property. Daniel's knees shook. Property. They weren't even talking about her like she was alive. They spoke of her like a stolen machine. The woman didn't move. He is not yours to touch. Weapons charged, crackling blue. The heat of them filled the small room. Daniel's chest heaved. He wanted to scream, to hide, to disappear. But then his eyes dropped to the shirt in his hands. A worthless rag once, now whole again, a symbol of everything he had lost and yet refused to throw away. The truth she had shown him returned, crashing into his mind like thunder. Humanity survives not by strength or perfection, but by holding on, by struggling when there is no reason left to. Daniel felt something shift inside him. Fear was still there, heavy as iron, but beneath it a spark had been lit. The soldier at the front raised his weapon. Final warning! Daniel's voice came out raw, shaking, but louder than he expected. No, the room froze. Even the soldiers seemed to hesitate. Daniel stepped forward, past the woman's shoulder, clutching the shirt like a banner. His legs wobbled, but he didn't stop. His eyes burned as he faced the armored figures. You can take everything from me. My job, my home, my future, but you can't take this. He lifted the shirt high. You can't take the meaning I give to things. That's what makes me human, and that's why you're afraid. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Their weapons trembled just for a moment. The woman's gaze softened. Pride flickered in her glowing eyes. The soldier leader barked again. "Stand down. You don't understand what you're—" Daniel cut him off, his voice sharp, breaking but strong. "I understand enough. I'm done being nothing. I choose her. I choose to leave with her." The air trembled. The glowing map on the table flared brighter, the clothes pulsing like living stars. A deep hum shook the walls. The woman reached for Daniel's hand. He gripped hers tightly, his knuckles white. The soldiers raised their weapons, shouting, "Stop them!" But it was too late. The light from the folded clothes exploded outward, filling the apartment in a flood of white gold brilliance. The soldiers stumbled back, blinded. The hum rose into a roar. The chains around Earth on the glowing map shattered, pieces of darkness breaking into sparks. Daniel's body felt weightless, as if gravity itself had let him go. His vision blurred, but the warmth of the woman's hand steadied him. Through the blazing light, her voice reached him, soft but clear. "You chose. And that is enough." The room around him dissolved, walls, floor, soldiers, city, all fading into nothing. For a heartbeat, Daniel thought he was falling. Then stars, endless, burning, alive. Not the painted neon stars of the city, but real ones, stretching across the dark, each one alive with color and fire. Daniel gasped, his chest filling with awe. His fear cracked apart, replaced by something larger. Hope. Beside him, the woman stood holding the basket of laundry as if it belonged here among galaxies. She looked at him, her smile gentle. "Welcome." Daniel turned in place, the shirt still clutched in his hand. Tears blurred his vision. For so long he had been broken, lost, forgotten. But now, standing among stars, he felt it. He mattered. Not because of strength, not because of greatness, but because he was human. The woman's voice echoed softly. "This is only the beginning. Struggle brought you here. Struggle will carry you further. And one day your kind will rise beyond even this." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, letting the words sink into his chest. The noise of the city, the anger of the landlord, the crushing weight of rent, all of it seemed far away now, small and meaningless compared to the vast sky opening before him. He whispered, his voice trembling but sure. "Then let's go." The map blazed again, forming paths across the stars. The two of them stepped forward, leaving Earth behind, the broken world fading into shadow. And as Daniel crossed into the unknown, one truth echoed louder than fear, louder than doubt, louder than the silence he once lived in. Humanity rises not because it wins, but because it refuses to fall. And for the first time, Daniel wasn't just surviving, he was becoming.